Hi friends, it's Heidi Stevens here. Welcome to Drop Into the Vortex, my newly rebranded podcast where we are going to be going deep into conversations around upleveling your frequency, reaching your next level, feeling alive in your day-to-day while you manifest that life that you know is possible. I believe that we are all spiritual beings having a human experience here. And if you are wanting to raise your consciousness, if you are wanting to feel more freedom and joy and aliveness in your human experience, then you've come to the right place. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I share firsthand my inner workings of how I'm making all of this happen in my life and how you can use tangible tips and tricks to use it in yours too. Can't wait to dive deep with you. Let's go. All right, well, here we are. I am so excited to dive in with you guys and share about my experience at Dr. Joe Dispenza's workshop and to just really bring you all into this conversation to share a little bit more about why I am just so lit up about this work, how I'm bringing it into my magnetic course and really all of the teachings that I do. And, I know a lot of you have just been asking about behind the scenes and what it's like and what did you learn? And I had quite a few mystical experiences while I was there. And I am just wanting to take you on the journey with me. So for those of you that don't know, I recently got back from a 4-day intensive workshop with Dr. Joe Dispenza. And this is my second time. So I went for the first time to a workshop in Marco Island in November of 2020. And then he has offered an advanced workshop for people that have already been through his week-long experience. And so it was a very condensed, heightened 3.5 days with people, that had already been through his initial workshop. So Kenny and I went together. Kenny, my husband, and I went together, and this was super exciting because I have done quite a bit of retreats and getting my master's and healings. And, I've done so much of that stuff. And so has he, maybe surprisingly to some of you, he has also done a lot of this work. Typically what happens is that I go to something and then he follows along. So I went and I got my master's in spiritual psychology in 2010. And about a couple years later, he decided to go and do the same program. I went to Joe Dispenza's retreat last November. I came home. I said, you got to go. And he ended up going a month later. Thank goodness, man. He is, I move really, really, really fast. And I'm lucky that he doesn't take him very long to catch on and to be part of the journey as well. So this was our first experience doing a personal growth retreat like this together. We've been in a lot of breathwork classes before, but this was our first multiple day. And, I know enough to know at this point to really leave my expectations at the door, meaning him and I, we have very, very different ways of processing and experiencing and very different timelines. And so I knew going in that we were both going to need a little bit of space and that his process was going to look so differently than mine. And sure enough, it was, which is fine. At certain points, he made me go to other areas of the room because he said that I got too loud and distracting in these meditations. And so multiple times we ended up sitting completely on opposite sides of the ballroom because he didn't want me to interrupt his process, which good for him for asking for what he needed and for being clear. So, like I'm sharing, it was a very, very condensed and intense 3 to 4 days. And in the best way, so really how these workshops work is that there's teaching components and then there's the integration component. And the integration is through deep meditations, both walking meditations and sitting meditations and some laying meditations. For any of you that have done any type of Joe Dispenza's, if you've read his books, he references these. If you go on his website, you can buy a lot of these meditations. Some people don't jive with them. And if you don't, and if his work is just too, kind of science-based or too masculine or whatnot, if you don't resonate with his work at this point, Great. It took me a while to really get on board, and I knew of him for a long time before I just really, really, really dove into the meat of his meditations. And they're different. They're really, really, really different. You can find some for free on YouTube, and if you just Google his name to try them out, you can also purchase them on his website. So, long story short, is that there were most days we were in meditation for somewhere between 7 and I think up to 10 hours. And you really drop into the vortex, meaning I really experienced being outside of my body, outside of this three-dimensional, thinking, feeling, touching, seeing, needing to know, having my mind run the show. And I was really, really able to just go experience such a higher plane where, as cliche as it sounds, there really is only love. There is frequencies of freedom and joy and compassion and pure empathy and abundance and freedom and simply being at your best. So, the theme of this 3-day workshop was time traveling, and time traveling meaning going to other dimensions, going to the future, going back, really having in the fifth dimension, which I'll be explaining more and more and more about throughout this podcast as we continue to dive in and unpack these conversations about what does it really mean to drop into the vortex. But being in the fifth dimension, there really is no time and space. And this illusion of this 3D reality, which we all think that we're living in. So, what am I saying here? We're all in this 3D reality when we are in the physical world, meaning we can touch things and we can feel things, we can taste, we can hear, we can see. And for so many of us, we've been conditioned that that is the extent of our physical world reality, is like what we can see. But we know, and if you're listening to this podcast, you know that there is something greater, that there is a greater energy, that there is something out there. You look at the ocean, you look in the sky, you can feel it, right? That there is a power greater than ourselves. You can call it energy, you can call it love, universe, spirit, source, divine feminine, God, whatever it is that you want to call this power that is greater than ourselves. That when we are able to slow down and really get out of and rise above the three-dimensional world. So rise above our senses, rise above more than what we can see and feel and touch, rise above matter. We can tap into higher frequencies. We get higher vibrations, higher energies. And when we do that, when we spend more time and attention and focus on that energy versus on matter, we start to realize that the stuff, the matter, the things, the money, the relationships, the physical, tangible matter of this world, it really doesn't have nearly as much significance as we think it does. And that as you time travel through these higher dimensions and through these higher planes, you start to realize more truth of oneness, of togetherness, of we are so much more alike than we are different. We have fallen so much and so far from the connection of oneness that we think that we are separate from one another. We think that we're in these individual human bodies. And I understand that my physical body is different than your physical body and quote unquote separate. But in the realm of the fifth dimension and in the realm of energy and in the realm of the law of oneness, we really are so connected, so connected. And so if this illusion of 3D reality is in essence a virtual reality. Like we've all just put on these virtual headsets. And if you've ever put on a virtual headset, which I actually haven't, you know the experience of being so kind of indoctrinated, so in that world of that reality, whatever you're seeing in the virtual reality headset, that you think it's real, that you think it's real. And they have done studies with burn victims that have had, third degree burns, and it hurts so badly to change their bandages and their wrappings because the nerve endings are so exposed that they have, that it's so beyond painful for these burn victims that they have been doing testing where they put on a virtual headset, and the reality in this headset is that they're in the Arctics and it's ice cold, and they're surrounded by penguins, and their whole nervous systems think that it's so freezing cold that when the doctors change their bandages, the people don't even flinch. The pain is virtually gone because their brain is rewiring and refiring in new ways. And they believe that their whole body temperature has completely cooled down. And so the same goes for us in our everyday world. We are so inundated with wiring and firing in certain ways, thinking that things are real that aren't, thinking that things have importance that don't, things that material items need our attention that really don't. That we are so far from the truth of what is that we have forgotten who we are and where we come from. So as I always say, we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and that our job as we incarnate into human form is to remember who we are and why we came here, and to come home to ourselves, to our hearts, to pure love, to compassion, to empathy, to abundance, to freedom, to all of those feelings that sit at the height of the emotional frequency guideline. And so if every thought has a frequency, if every feeling has a frequency, if every belief has a frequency, our jobs, my friends, is to take off this virtual headset as much as we possibly can and to tune into those higher frequency thoughts, to tune into the truth of who we are and what we are, and to allow ourselves to feel more alive and more energetic and more playful and more loving and more abundant, because it's true who you truly are. It is who you truly are. And I'm not sitting here saying that I'm doing this all day long every day. Nope. I'm in the human form just as much as every single one of you guys are, but I'm a full believer in the words that I'm speaking to you right now. And I know that every single time that I allow myself to rise up into those higher dimensions, into letting go of the matter and focusing more of my attention into energy, and letting go of my physical world reality, letting go of my physical body, and tuning into, like I'm talking about, a greater sense of oneness. I am in so much peace. And there's these direct inner knowings that come in, and there's divine downloads that come in, and there's I feel like I'm really being initiated into my higher calling. I'm already doing it. You guys are listening. I am touching, I am impacting, I am gathering the communities and the women, and I'm just sharing what I'm learning. I'm sharing what I know to be true. And you guys, it's resonating. It's resonating. And I believe it's resonating so much because it is truth. And so whether you fully understand what I'm talking about, or you understand, whatever the vortex is or fifth dimension, whether those words like really land for you or not, there's something that resonates in my voice that you're like, yes, I want more of that. Yes, I want to experience more freedom, more enlightenment, a higher consciousness. So it's time for us to all stop playing the game. For us to be caught in a web of everything I see and touch and feel is reality. And to move out of that, the first step is to practice opening your heart more and more and more and more and more, placing your attention and your energy on your heart, because your heart is the access point. It is the receiver to higher wisdom. It is that place, if you think about on a cross, it's that access point between the vertical and the horizontal worlds. It's the point where we can really attune to higher wisdom, universal energies, again, God sourced universe, and really tap more into that pureness of who we truly are. And then from that, when you're tapped into the fourth dimension, which is a full open heart, you then are able to then start traveling up into the fifth dimension. And if you're wondering how, you can start by doing some of my meditations. You can start by, just starting to have an intention of what would be the next step. What's the next book I would read? What's the next meditation I would do? The reason why meditation is so powerful is because it stops that crazy mind that's just always going. The ego mind keeps us locked into the third dimension, and it's not bad. It's not that we don't want to be in the third dimension. It's not that we're trying to get out of it all the time. We're actually here. We get to experience pleasure. We get to experience our bodies. We get to experience the beauty and the richness that we can see and visualize in our mind's eye in the fourth and fifth dimensions. We can experience that here in physical world reality. So please don't get me wrong and think like, oh, the third dimension is bad. No, it's where we get to see our physical manifestations actually take place. Because when you're in that fifth dimension and you're visualizing and you're feeling and you're seeing, the brain does not know the difference between if it's real or if it is something in your mind's eye. And when you start opening your eyes, that is when we get to start feeling, experiencing, playing, and having more, and we just get to have the human experience. So it's not that it's bad. It's just that most people are locked into their human experience and their 3D reality all of the time, 100% of the time. And when you are trying to experience more, when you want to have more pleasure, more joy, more ecstasy, more love, it's really hard to attain when you are only dealing with 3D reality, right? This is why you see people focus so heavily on their diet, on their exercise routine, on all of these, they think I need to work 12 hours a day. I need to eat this certain amount of calories. I need to, do all of these things. I need to go on all these dating apps. I need to, go and do IVF. It's not to say that you don't do any of these things. I do them. I watch what I eat. I go and exercise. I very, very, very much am in 3D reality. All I'm saying is, how can you explain the woman that's been on IVF for, several rounds and then all of a sudden she gets pregnant? How do you explain the woman that's just feeling great in her body, feeling so much joy, feeling radiating from the inside out, and quote unquote, somehow just loses some weight? It just starts dropping off. If you're looking to collapse time and space, if you're looking to manifest with more ease, if you're looking to create in the physical world reality with less effort, you want to spend more time focusing on energy. more time focusing on opening that beautiful heart of yours, more time accessing that fifth dimension where you just drop into gratitude and love and experiencing freedom, experiencing the freedom and the abundance of your future self, whether or not it's a reality when you open your eyes. And when you do that consistently, you'll notice your physical world reality begin to change. This is the work that I'm up to. This is the work of this podcast. You're going to hear from other people that are doing this. You're going to hear from other people on different techniques on how to access this. You're going to hear my direct experiences and journey, kind of having this all come together. And you know, this is the work that I did with Dr. Joe. And he's just one. He's just one of many people teaching this. For whatever reason, I really, really, really love the science behind what he teaches. And I know I didn't go into the science all too much today, but you know, what I will share is that when we start deregulating our nervous systems, meaning slowing down through meditation, through breath work, through connecting with an open heart, through opening your eyes and just seeing the beauty and the nature and the ocean and the mountains, feeling that dirt beneath your toes, looking and spending time and actually enjoying a flower. We start slowing down our nervous systems. We start regulating our nervous systems with more coherence. We start becoming more whole. We start integrating our more spiritual nature with just with more alignment. And there are studies. The studies have proven that when we do this, when humans do this, that we are more resistant to our environment. We are less affected by other people, by what and who is around us. The studies also show that we are more resistant to viruses. Our immune systems are healthier. When you're not living in fear, you are more connected to love. One of my favorite quotes that Dr. Joe shared while we were there is, fear is not the opposite of love. It is the separation from it. And let's be real, there is a lot of fear and polarization and separation in today's 3D reality. And I have a lot of hope for where we're going. I believe that there is a real rise in consciousness right now. There is a real awakening happening on this planet. And I'm grateful to be part of this movement. And so anytime that there is a bubbling up, that there is this rise and this calling forward, we're seeing so many wake up to the truth of who they are. They're on this path. It's been one of the biggest gifts, major silver linings of all the challenges of this last year to year and a half that we've been going through. Slowing down, tuning in, getting clear on your values, getting clear on what's important to you, how you want to spend your time, who you want to spend your energy with. And as we spend more of our energy on faith and love and connection with ourselves and less on fear, there's a rising up in a lot of people. And then with that, there's a lot of the darkness and the muckiness and the yucky and the just really the dark that has to be bubbled up. And so I remain in a lot of hope of where we're going and the journey that our kids are going to go on and the world that we're creating, because you see these kids coming in and they are so open-eyed and they know. I look at my kids, I have deep conversations with my 7-year-old. He knows. He knows how to open his heart. He knows how important it is to visualize and meditate and slow down, even if he resists it. So we're teaching them at such a young age. And we're teaching ourselves. So my week with Dr. Joe was pretty profound. There were quite a few very, very, very deep mystical experiences, which I'm not quite ready to share in detail yet. I'm going to hold them close to my heart because they were just very, very, very powerful. And, I connected with my grandmother who's passed and my grandfather who's passed and a dear, dear friend of mine that's passed and really time traveled. And, I'm going to sit with some of them. And I think I'll probably share them on future episodes. But for now, I just want you to sit with all of this content and information. And I want you to ask yourself, what does it look like for me to spend more time in an open heart? What does it look like for me to spend more time out of the 3D and visualizing, feeling into, experiencing my future self in that 5th dimension, where there's no time, no space, where there's no need to force or manipulate, where there's no need to know how it's all going to happen, but really just be with the possibilities of my future self and what I want to create. Will you do me a favor and go ahead onto iTunes and like this podcast if you enjoyed this episode. I'd so appreciate if you'd write a review. It really helps me get this experience out to more people. And I believe that this information and this conversation is the one that we need to continue having to wake up, to enliven ourselves, to band together, and to continue helping this rise in consciousness take form. I love you. I'm so happy to be back in this podcast and to be on this journey with you. You guys have a beautiful day, and I will talk to you soon.